All right, we're rolling. Hello, and welcome to Serve the Wyoming Way, a new podcast brought to you by the Grizzly Six.
The
goal of this podcast is to provide you with conversations our leaders will be having throughout the state and will help educate our listeners about opportunities in the Wyoming Army National Guard and volunteer opportunities in their very own communities. And the ultimate goal of this is to grow our partnerships. I am Master Sergeant Jacqueline Marshall from the Wyoming National Guard Public Affairs Office. I'll be facilitating this podcast here in beautiful Pinedale. And leading today's conversation is Brigadier General Steve Alkire, Commander and Assistant Adjutant General of the Wyoming Army National Guard. General Alkire is responsible for the readiness, training, leadership, and strategic planning for more than 1,500 soldiers in support of state and federal mission requirements. He has been serving this country for over 35 years. Welcome, General Alkire.
Thank you, Sir Marshall. I appreciate it.
And our guest today on the show is Chief Shad Cooper. Chief Cooper is the Fire Chief for Sublette County Unified Fire, an organization with 6 fire stations and 85 volunteers. Shad has more than 26 years of firefighting experience in Wyoming. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Public Safety Administration from Grand Canyon University, and he is a graduate from the National Fire Academy Executive Fire Officer Program, and Shad has served on the International Fire Service Training Association Essentials of Firefighting Validation Committee for the 6th edition, 7th edition, and 8th edition training manuals. And he currently sits on the International Fire Service Training Association Chief Officer 5th edition Validation Committee. Shad also serves as the president of the Wyoming State Fire Advisory Board, and he also volunteers for the Wyoming Firefighter Cancer Support Network. That's a lot. You do a lot. You're a busy person. So thank you for being here, and thank you for letting us do this podcast here with you, opening your doors to us. Let's start with you. Why was this partnership started?
Oh, good. Well, thank you very much for scheduling this podcast. I really appreciate your time and look forward to the opportunity to visit with you and talk about some of the challenges that we have in the Wyoming Fire Service regarding recruitment and retention, and some of those challenges may be very similar to what's being faced by Wyoming National Guard. So to answer your question, the general had reached out to me and had mentioned that that in the post-COVID environment that we've seen similar challenges in the Wyoming Fire Service and in the National Guard regarding recruitment and retention of our folks, and some of the challenges that I face in as being a fire chief in Sublette County is how do we recruit firefighters that are interested in volunteering and helping their communities, and being there when their neighbors have an emergency and trying to be part of that solution to respond and help out and resolve that emergency. It's hard to find people that have the time to commit and be part of that, and that's a big ask. And there's definitely a certain demographic of people that have that civic minded community orientation that are interested in being there, and we try to cater and recruit and find those folks in our community. And so I think there's some oversight there that is necessary for me as the chief to try to facilitate that and try to recruit, bring in good firefighters. I think there's some similarities in the types of people that we try to recruit to our volunteer fire service, and I think that's probably why the general had reached out to us.
Can you touch on that from your standpoint, General Alkire?
Sure. So, we're right here in the middle of Pinedale in Chief Cooper's office, and we just came from his command and staff meeting. And I will tell you, I have the opportunity to serve with over 1,500 professional soldiers. And I will tell you, we met with his staff, from the 6 battalions, and what a bunch of professionals. So when the Chief Cooper talks about what we have in common. When I reached out to Chief Cooper, the Army Guard staff, my guidance to them was, hey, tell me where we have organizations that we have commonalities with. And of course, we have 2 firefighters on the staff, volunteers, and they said, hey, let's start to reach out to the volunteer fire chiefs. And so, the staff reached out to Chief Cooper, we met, and really it's about what we have in common, those that want to serve. But right now it's kind of tough in terms of the recruiting volunteer firemen and members of the National Guard. And so this podcast is really for guardsmen. It's for, the chief and his folks and anyone who wants to serve. And I will tell you, there's, the chief in the meeting today, he's got 4 members of his fire department who are National Guardsmen. So you can find work-life balance by having a great family, serving your employer, being in the Guard, and being in the volunteer fire department. That means your plate's full. But I will tell you, there's 4 just in the Chief's Department in Sublette County that are doing that right now. And so, quality folks, and each of us strive to have those kind of qualities in our organizations. And so I think that's why when the chief and I decided to do this podcast, we think we can, in this partnership where we both can mutually benefit from getting quality folks in our organizations.
We try really hard to provide incentives for our volunteer firefighters. So when a new volunteer, prospective candidate, comes and meets with me and fills out an application, generally without fail, they don't even realize that we provide some of the benefits that we do. But the reason why we provide those benefits is because first we want to try to provide incentives to our volunteers not only to join the fire department but to continue to stay with the fire department for as long as possible. But when I introduce the new potential candidates and meet with them and explain what those benefits are, one of the things we do is provide it's called a paper call is the way we do it in Sublette County. But when a new recruit finishes the graduation recruit academy, they immediately start receiving $20 per incident that they respond to. Now, some of those incidents might be 15 minutes long. Some of those incidents might be 4 hours long. So that's the reason why it's not an hourly wage. There's definitely other models that we could use, but that's what fits our organization and our needs. But that's one example of a small benefit. But then we also provide a retirement program for all volunteer firefighters in the state of Wyoming are eligible for to participate in the Wyoming retirement system. It's a special retirement program specifically for volunteer firefighters. But when I joined the volunteer fire department, I was 19 years old, and based on my years of service, when I reach my retirement age, I'll make almost $800 a month. Now, it's not enough for me to retire on by any means, but it's certainly, a supplement to my retirement and something that I'm going to appreciate when I do get to that age. And we have many firefighters in our organization that, are looking forward to receiving that benefit. And, after years of contribution to the system, it's kind of a nice pat on the back and something to look forward to and feel some appreciation for those years of service. But there's a lot of things that I think that we could be doing for our volunteer firefighters that we struggle to provide some benefit for them above and beyond what I just mentioned. So right now we're trying to explore if there's opportunities to open up group healthcare plans and provide healthcare benefits for our firefighters. What we're finding is that's actually a pretty difficult challenge to address. And so I'm trying to explore other opportunities. And when General and I met in Cheyenne a couple of months ago, that was one of the things that we talked about is maybe there's an opportunity to overlap when we have volunteer firefighters that are also members of the National Guard that might be able to use those benefits to enhance both and those healthcare benefits and some of the accidental death and dismemberment policies and some of those kind of things that we really struggle to financially provide for our firefighters. Now don't get me wrong, we address some of that and in my opinion we do a very good job of taking care of our volunteer firefighters. and making sure that they have excellent coverage. But there's definitely some things that I want to do as a fire chief to continue to build on and improve and enhance that coverage. And I think that's where some of this partnership can come in. I'll defer to the general on this.
Sure. So there's always a tangible benefits for serving. It's just the bottom line sometimes of what we do. And so if you ask me the tangible benefits of serving in the National Guard, first one is retirement. Like the chief said, serving part-time in both careers in the National Guard and volunteer fire department, volunteer fireman, you can have 2 retirements. We have health and dental. So when the chief talks about how the federal government serving in the Guard can augment some of the benefits of a volunteer fireman. We have TRICARE Reserve Select. A single soldier can pay $46 for medical care. He can pay if he's got a family, it's $230. What about dental? It's $29 for a single and $75 for a family. So immediately by serving part-time, and you try to compare that in the private sector, I tell you, you just can't find it. So 2 great benefits right off the bat. Serving the Guard on a drill weekend, people have families. The state legislature was able to provide us with a resolution and some money to provide daycare on a drill weekend. Mm-hmm. We've got the ability to get trained. We've got federal, state, and reimbursement. For college. But also we've got just in the last couple months on a drill weekend, many of our soldiers travel to drill. And so if you live over 150 miles from where you drill, we'll pay you up to $500 because we have soldiers that travel, that fly in. And so in terms of the tangible benefits, we've got life insurance, $400,000 for $25 a month. And so those are unique benefits to being in the National Guard, but would truly augment any volunteer. Some are taking advantage of it right now. So like the chief said, I think our benefits can mutually support each other.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. I mean, there's so many, just like you mentioned, there's the new one that just came out with helping with childcare. That's a great benefit. So do you think part of also doing this podcast, I know we're both having retention, recruiting issues, but we're also educating people that may just not even know?
Oh, I think so. I mean, I've had some brother-in-laws that served on a volunteer fire department. I didn't know there was a retirement. I didn't know that there's ability to the benefits that you get. I just didn't know that from the volunteer fire department to pay for education. I just didn't know that. And so absolutely, I think there's an education here from both mine and the chief's perspective that, people can make an informed, the right decision for them in their lives when they're informed. And so that's really one of the benefits of this podcast. Chief, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. You'd mentioned some of the tangible benefits, but when I meet with new recruit firefighters, I try to focus more on maybe some of the other benefits that maybe aren't financial, and so I usually try to talk to them about the why of joining the fire department, and when I have the first introductory meeting, we always talk about why are you joining the fire department, and what brought you into the door, and what are you looking for, and almost without fail when I really talk with the firefighters and delve into it, it's always about serving the community first and foremost. That's always a really common answer, and I think highly of our firefighters that use that want to be here for the right reasons, that they want to. When somebody dials 911, I think I mentioned this earlier, but when somebody dials 911, they're having the worst day of their life. They could be having a fire, a wildland fire, a structure fire, a car wreck, whatever the emergency is. When they're dialing 911, they're looking for help. And when somebody joins the volunteer fire department, it's because they want to be there to help their neighbor out when they're having that worst day of their life. They want to be there and be part of that solution and make that a little bit better. And so that's one of the reasons that I think drives a lot of people to want to serve and be part of their community, is they want to be part of that solution. And beyond that, there's another thing that